Okay, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever and whenever you are. Welcome to today's Friday webinar. I'm Geoff Rasmussen, host of the Legacy Family Tree webinars, and today is another great day for genealogists. I've got to tell you first, the lady at the bank yesterday, she asked me if I had found anything exciting with my genealogy recently. I told her I think so, and that I'd get to find out in tomorrow's webinar. She was a little confused, and so I explained to her that I think I have found something exciting, and that I invited the world to watch me as I figure it all out, and so here we are. Well, as some of you know, a couple of weeks ago I discovered an obituary which had some clues about Martin Brown's sisters, but I wanted to wait to explore it with all of you. Over 1,700 of you have registered for today's webinar, and so if I overlook something, I'm sure I've got lots of extra sets of eyes to help. So here's what it all looks like. About a month ago or so, I discovered Martin F. Brown's death certificate, which gave me his death and burial information. It also told me who his wife was at the time, and Lillian. So naturally, the next thing I chose to look for is a possible obituary. And so on June 27th, I requested from the Minnesota Historical Society that they search for a possible obituary for Martin. And this is the entry that I added to Martin's to-do list. Notice that I marked it as correspondence, and I gave it a high priority level over here. Well, in what seemed like no time at all, I received an envelope in the mail from the Society, which included Martin Brown's death notice from the St. Paul Pioneer Press. It told me where he was living at the time of his death, which it matched his death certificate. It explained who his wife was, that he was the brother of B.F. Brown, and then it listed his 3 living sisters. Now, I don't know why they couldn't have just said his sisters' names, but at least they gave me some clues of their husbands' names and where they were living in the year 1940. So back to Legacy Family Tree's family view now. Child number 2, this is Martin Brown. His is the obituary we're discussing today. The obituary listed 3 sisters. Now I know that Marietta, child number 1, couldn't be one of them because she died in 1923, some 17 years earlier. So this leaves me with Susan, Minnie, and Fanny. So the obituary lists a Mrs. C.H. Stram, a Mrs. J.J. Wheeler, and a Mrs. H.E. Dane. So my challenge is to figure out which husband belongs to which sister. And I'm so happy that you're all with me today. Happy and nervous. Nervous because, well, this is as far as I've gone with the research. It's been killing me not to pursue this any further until today. I guess I'm also nervous because what if we don't find anything? Then what are we going to talk about for the next hour? Well, regardless of whether or not we discover anything, my hope is that as I talk my way through this research process, that you'll pick up an idea or two about some basic analysis skills and about how I use Legacy to plan and document my personal research. I'm not going to tell you that you have to do it my way exactly, but maybe an idea or two will ring true with you. So here's a relationship chart I created in Legacy to show you all how I'm related to Martin F. Brown. Looks like he's my half-second cousin, 3 times removed. We both share Asa Clark Brown as our common ancestor. I descend through Asa's wife, Eleanor, and Martin descends through Asa's other wife, Elizabeth. One of my research projects is to identify all of Asa's descendants. So here's your first tip. To create a chart like this in Legacy, go to the Tools menu, click on the Relationship Calculator option, and then click Print. I adjusted a few other settings there, like the color and the box border and the margins. By the way, I'm going to move rather quickly through this webinar. So if you don't catch everything the first time, I invite you to watch the replay or purchase the CD afterwards. My intent is not to have you remember every little task I'm showing, but to give you some ideas that you can hopefully apply to your own research. So this is my plan today. like I've taught in previous Watch Geoff Live webinars, before doing anything else, I like to set up the source clipboard. In other words, since I'll be adding the citation to every little piece of information, I want to tell Legacy which source I'll be using over and over. So we'll walk through that first. Then I will scan the obituary with my scanner here on my desk and give you some digitization tips, organizational tips, and if I can remember, I'll show you how to add the citation to the digital image. We'll then move back to Legacy and add the obituary event and go from there. And like I've written here, we'll see where, here's my cursor, we'll see where the research takes us. This is live. I haven't prepared a script. I've done this intentionally. This is my real personal research. The only difference for me today is that I'll be talking out loud while I do my research. And so I'll do my best under the pressure of, well, it looks like we've hit the 1,000 viewer mark already. So because there's so many of you today and just one of me, in your chat area, maybe only type a question or a comment if it's an emergency. Like, you know, I've done something really wrong there on the screen. I just don't think I can monitor your questions at the same time I'm trying to solve this problem. But I'll open this up to your questions at the end. Now, because this is just me doing my personal research, this will probably be presented at the intermediate to advanced levels of Legacy users. So, however, you beginners, please stay with me. You'll be able to take away some ideas of what Legacy can do for you when you're ready for it. Then at the conclusion, I'll have several door prizes to give away, along with your 10% off coupon code that you can use at the legacyfamilytreestore.com. I'll also announce our upcoming webinars and then conclude with your questions. So let's close this PowerPoint. And I'm going to switch over to my personal Legacy family file here. So I've got this obituary. I added it to my to-do list. Let's go into my to-do list. I'll just do this very first. This is at the real to-do list here. Looks like on June 23rd is when I closed. Let me just edit that just to make sure. Yeah, June 23rd is when I created this task for request the death certificate. I actually sent my sister an email. She's up in near the family history library, and I gave her the information, and on the results tab I wrote down that I received this, and so I closed it. And then the next to-do item that I created, and I did that just by clicking on the add button over here, was to request the obituary. So let's click edit. And I ordered it from, well, if I go to the repository tab, this shows me I ordered it from the Minnesota Historical Society. And I did that on June 27th. And so here are my results. I'm now going to just write that I received the obituary. And let's mark this as closed, and that puts in today's date. And I'll click on Save. Okay, good. Now the very next thing, and I'm going to do this even before I scan the obituaries, I'm going to go set up the source clipboard, and you'll see why in just a bit. So remember that the source clipboard helps me be able to, well, it helps me tell Legacy which source or which citation I'm going to be adding to all of the new information that I find. So let's start out. I'll click on the triangle, and let's just go ahead. Let's clear the clipboard, so I'm just starting fresh. And then step one, click here to select or change the master source to cite. And here my list, this is my master source list, and because of how I've arranged this, my locations are in place order. Now I just have to remember St. Paul is in St. Louis County, and I'm going to just go down to see, do any of you see if I've already recorded the St. Paul Pioneer Press? That may be in underneath Duluth. It doesn't appear that I have, and so I'll just go ahead and let's go create the brand new master source. So we'll go down to newspapers. Oh, people are telling, oh, Thank you. You're telling me Ramsey County. That would constitute an emergency. Thanks, guys, for writing that in. I've got Duluth on my mind here, I think. So let's try this again. Minnesota, Ramsey County. I thought that I had the St. Paul Pioneer Press typed in before. Okay, so thanks to the 8 people that wrote that in. I appreciate it. So because it's already there, this prevents me from having to retype it again. So let's click on the Select button. And now all that I need to do is type in these fields here. So the name of the article. What I'm going to do is I'm going to type the Martin F. Brown death notice. And if you're new to Legacy, you'll see over on the right-hand side my citation being created as I'm filling it in. And when they mailed me a copy of this newspaper page, they did not write, or they didn't make a copy of the entire page. And so on the back of the document that they sent me is where they wrote down that this was found on page 20. So because of that, I'm not able to really determine what column it was in, but that's all right. Next, let's add the transcription, and I've done that already over on my second monitor, so I'll just paste that for you here. And I won't be able to add the multimedia to it yet because I haven't scanned it yet. So here's our source clipboard. Let's make our next step to open up my photo editing program, and I've got that right here. I'll be using Photoshop Elements version 10, one of lots of possibilities out there for you. And I'm going to walk over to my scanner now and just make sure, okay, I've got the death notice in there now. So let's do this. I guess it's been about a month now since we did the digital images webinar teaching you these concepts here. So we'll just apply some of those concepts. So we'll go File, Import from my scanner. Mine is the second one here in this list. And I guess here in the document type I could select, well, you know what? I could select newspaper. And by doing so, it's going to automatically turn on the descreening, which is important when you're scanning in newspapers. I'm just checking my other settings just to make sure that I'm doing this at 300 dots per inch. Let's go ahead and preview this. I'm hoping that you're able to see this as I'm actually doing this. So here on the right, I've got the preview, so let's go ahead and click on Scan. Okay, thanks, Doug. Doug's saying that you're able to see it. Thanks, Susan. Okay, so we'll take just well, it looks like less than a minute to do the scan. Shouldn't take too long. So it's actually, I can hear it scanning now. And when it gets done, we'll go ahead and save the original. Yeah, Jim does write in saying that really you only need the descreening if there are pictures that are part of the newspaper, and Jim's right about that. Okay, so here it shows up here in my editor area, but I'm going to switch back to this, close this. Okay, now are you all able to read that really well now? Well, we're viewing this at 12.5% size. So, you know, Virginia writes in saying, why didn't I just crop the notice that I wanted first before scanning? That's a good question. Let me zoom in on this. She's asking, why don't I just, using my select button here, why don't I just crop this area right here? And you know, Virginia, I used to do that, but then I realized that I lost the context. I lost the rest of, you know, that page. I would lose the title of the newspaper, which is usually at the top if this were a full page. And so now I just make sure to scan the whole thing, so I do have that context, so I appreciate your question. All right. Let's go ahead and save this. So we'll go File, Save As. Oh, and that shows up on my, just a second. It's on my other screen over here. I'll move it over. If you're only using one monitor, oh, I'm sorry. 2 monitors will change your life, but make it a little more complicated when presenting to 1,000 viewers. Okay, so I need to make two decisions now. Where on my